So the Panthers just won game one over the Maple Leafs, and honestly, we should not be surprised that they're this good. And don't get me wrong, I was low on the Panthers heading into this season like most, and beating the Boston Bruins was a massive upset, but given the context now, it makes sense that they are a very good team. Because after all, this team was a 122-point President's Trophy winner last year and still kept most of their core. And the one massive shakeup to the core besides unrestricted free agents leaving was the Tkachuk trade, which was a massive win for them. When the deal happened last summer, everybody just assumed that it made the Panthers significantly worse for next season. Because Tkachuk was viewed by most, I was not in this camp, as a worse player than Huberdeau, and Weegar was a borderline top 20 defenseman. But quickly during this season, we realized that it was the Florida system and talent that turned Huberdeau into a 116-point guy and Weegar in the mid-40s. And they are still good players, especially Weegar on the defensive side, and their production will most likely improve next year in Calgary, but they were inflated in Florida by the team and talent around them. Versus Tkachuk, it's kind of the opposite. He put up 100 points in that Daryl Sutter system and just took a superstar step and now is a top 10 player in the entire league. Like last summer, he was viewed as Johnny Gaudreau's 100-point sidekick that maybe couldn't carry his own line to probably being a Hart finalist this year. And as for replacing Weegar's impact, Montour absolutely emerged as a stud offensive beast, and Forsling took another step, so his absence wasn't that large. So that summer blockbuster that everybody thought would massively hurt the team wasn't as bad as everybody thought. And naturally, at the start of the season, it took some time to build some new chemistry with Tkachuk, as well as a new coaching system in Paul Maurice. I'm definitely not making any excuses for them, but after all those changes, it was unrealistic for us to think they'd be firing right out of the gate. And as a result, they started a pretty brutal 16, 18, and 4, putting them in a pretty big hole in the wild card race. But then it started to click, and they would go an impressive 26, 14, and 4 in the final 44 games, good for a 104-point pace. And of course, they peaked at the right time, winning 6 straight games in the final weeks of the season to lock up that wild card spot. So this current team is roughly the same core as the 2022 President's Trophy winner, and yes, they did lose 2 key pieces, but added a top 10 player in the league. Now, are they as good as the 2022 Panthers? No, I don't think so. I don't think they have as much depth, and they didn't go all in at the deadline like last year, but going from 122 points to 92 points, that was very misleading. They are not that bad of a drop-off. So going forward, don't be surprised if this team ends up beating the Leafs and actually going on a cup run, because they're much better than we gave them credit for.